There's an old saying, and I'm sure your mother or your father probably told you this, that if you want to get something in life, it's first better to understand what it is the other person wants. And so that applies when you're thinking about your renewals, when you're thinking about your IT vendor contract negotiations, cloud, on-premise, doesn't matter, right? You have to think about and you have to go into these negotiations with a mindset of first determining what matters most to your vendor, right? Specifically cloud vendors. The first and foremost, it's this. It's very simple. They care about annual contract value, so the ACV. Now, most vendors, whether it's Salesforce, ServiceNow, Workday, that are cloud-based, they're going to speak in terms of $1 million ACV. That's how they report their deals. And so if you're a customer that's hovering around $1 million, you've yet to clip that, there's an opportunity for you to really leverage this opportunity in the sense that they are now going to be able to, even if it's a slight tick above $1 million, they're going to be able to include that as one of the deals that they close that's now $1 million in annual contract value. And that is good for them because that's what they report, that's what the market's interested in, especially if they're publicly traded like all these vendors are. The other reason why ACV is important is because they want to report growth of ACV, right? Every uptick in ACV is important not only for the immediate deal, but it's important for the longer term, right? Because as we've talked about ad nauseum, is that you will most likely have to renew. And so if they can get the baseline annual contract value to increase, clip $1 million and continue to go up, right? Salesforce actually reports $5 million deals, $10 million deals. It's because they want to show growth of that number as well. That's something they report out on. So again, that matters extremely for them, and it's a very important metric that they track internally. And so you knowing that is going to be important when you start to think about the portfolio, the size of the deal that you represent, putting aside everything else. Now here are the other things. Emerging products or net new products. Products that are innovative, that they're going to market for the first time. So let me give you some examples. If you are a ServiceNow customer, that would be HR service delivery, right? That's a new product for them. So if you're considering that product, even in a small quantity or low dollar values, it is something that's going to be meaningful to them, especially the sales rep who's going to have to go up and get concessions. That's something that's important. Number two, let's think about Salesforce Einstein. Now that's not necessarily a new product per se, but it's an enhancement. It's an automation tool. It is intelligence, artificial intelligence, which is very important right now. And so the more they continue to add that to their products and they get organizations to adopt that Einstein, for example, that's very meaningful. There's a lot of impact that comes to that, to the success of their business. And so if you are a customer that's now considering the utilization of Einstein in that example, that's very valuable. Again, even if it's not a significant amount of quantity or dollars tied to it. You can even look at things like Microsoft with Azure, right? That is their cloud platform. They're number 2 in the market. It's not necessarily an emerging product, but it's a product that they're going to their base and saying, hey, look, you may not be ready yet to start developing on it. You may not be ready for a full platform rollout or all the services associated, but could you make a commitment? Could you put some dollars into your contract as you renew? And if you can, there's value in that again, because they talk about the number of deals that have closed that include Azure. And so when you think about what matters most is to get product adoption of net new products that they are developing and going to market to, especially when, and you can look at their earnings calls, they spent a significant amount of time talking about the dollars, the R&D that went into the development, the marketing dollars, the branding around it, and they want to get some successful wins and report them out to the market. So if you represent that, they don't need to give the dollar amounts, they just need to talk about deals that have closed with net new products. The other thing that's incredibly important, it matters extremely, is to build the right relationships. So a lot of these vendors have relationships at maybe a tactical level, right? They always want to go up the chain. Ideally, they want to get to the CEO. And so if you can offer them exposure, interaction, engagement with senior level people within your organization, that's meaningful to them. They're probably going to request you attend their conferences, right? So whether it's Dreamforce or Knowledge or whatever it may be, they're going to try to get you to go there. Now they would love you to be there, don't get me wrong, but they would really love if they could get the senior level executives in the room. And so think about that. And we're not saying just bring them in the room and have them sit there. It's more important to actually have interaction. If you can do that, that's valuable to them. The other thing we're starting to see a lot more of this of late is long-term commitments. Now that may be obvious, but when I talk about long-term commitments, it's more about, can you give us something that's beyond 3 years? Even if they had to put in some sort of out clause or some sort of condition in it. Because again, it goes back to what do they report to the market? And what they report, all of these cloud vendors, is unearned revenue, deferred revenue, revenue that's not yet been recognized, but it's on the books, right? They report that number. And the reason why Salesforces of the world can put out these astronomical revenue growths of 28 billion by 2023, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they know that they have a significant amount of dollars on the books that hasn't been recognized yet. And so a lot of these vendors are starting to come to the organizations as part of a renewal and saying, hey, look, can you give us a 5-year deal? Now, we would never recommend going with a 5-year deal without the right protections and flexibility built into it, but that is certainly something, if positioned appropriately and correctly, could create a significant amount of leverage because, again, we know that matters to them. And the last thing, quite simply, is they want to have an opportunity. They want to have an opportunity to come in and demo. They want to have an opportunity to come in and talk about your roadmap. They want to have an opportunity. And a lot of times you look at that and say, hey, that's just them trying to infiltrate and trying to get information, and there's truth to that. But the fact of the matter is, if you're really interested in forming a true partnership, which is what we recommend all of our customers do, it's not just about slashing pricing or pushing the vendor into a deal that's only favorable for you. It's about creating a partnership. And if you're interested in that, what does matter to them is having them come in and go into a scenario where they actually get mind share. They actually have demos that can be conducted in a meaningful way. So again, if you're interested in having a good deal, if you're interested in having the deal that you want with your customer, with your vendor rather, it's important to first think about what it is they want. Start there first, get informed with the right answers to the test, and then approach your negotiation appropriately.